Okay, that seems to have settled down. Let's make a start. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's online briefing for this new project that Hempsalls are working on with HMRC. If you've not already done so, if you pop yourself on mute, that would be absolutely fantastic. You will have an opportunity to make comments and participate in a poll as part of today's launch. So do be ready to make comments and let your views and thoughts known. My name is James Hempsall. I'm chairing today's session and I'm the team working on this project. I'm joined by colleagues from Hempsalls. Our project manager, Joe Pringle, will be supporting the delivery of today's launch, and our advisor team and colleagues from HMRC. This session is for you. It's designed for you to find out more about this project that we've started. It's being attended today by local authorities, by local councils, by government departments, by support organisations and agencies. And I can see from the list that we also have people in family-facing roles or early years and childcare providers as well. You're welcome, because we really want to tell you about what we want to be doing on this project over the next few months. It will last just short of the hour, and I need to tell you that the session is being recorded, and it's being recorded for those of you that might miss the beginning, those of you that want to revisit its content, and actually we'll be asking you to share the recording of the webinar if you want to do that for people's benefit that have not been able to join us so far. There will be some slides, and again, these will be shared at the end after today's session, and we really do want you to engage as much as possible. So let's have a look at the structure for today's session, which is on the next slide. After the aim and purpose of the event, we will give those of you that are new to Hempsalls a little bit of information about who we are and what we'll be doing. There's a little bit of background about tax-free childcare also, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. We'll be considering some of our possible approaches to how we'll be delivering this project as well. What we're thinking in terms of the activities that will be forming the content of the work that we do. We'll be asking you what you think. This isn't just about talking to you. You want to start the conversation today, and for that to continue, and to open up some dialogue and some opportunities for you to ask questions. There are a few things that you can do as well to support the rollout of this project with the information shared today and with the information that we'll share with you after today's online launch. And at the end, we will describe what happens next. Okay, so if we were to think about aim and purpose then, well, we want to tell you about this project. We're really excited to have dedicated time and resource to think about tax-free childcare, something that's always been there since 2016-ish, but something that perhaps doesn't always get the benefit of the spotlight. So we want to tell you about what we want to do. We want to explain our approach and what we're aiming to do to add some difference and perhaps some new angles around how tax-free childcare could be thought about, talked about, and ultimately taken up. And it will work best with your support. So we want to outline how you can get involved and how you can help shape the delivery and the reach of this programme. Do please use the comments bar if you can, and the Q&A function on this meeting to make a point or ask a question, because we will be looking at that during today's session. Okay, next slide then, about Hempsalls. You may have worked with us before, you may not have done. You may have heard of us, or you may be completely new to Hempsalls by attending today's online launch. In short, we started in 1999 and we've always made it our business to work alongside local authorities, organisations, early years and childcare providers to help everyone provide children and families with an equal chance, and to navigate the challenges and the opportunities presented by various government funded early years and childcare offers. You can find out more about Hempsalls by visiting our website, or even if you can and are so motivated, scanning the QR code at the bottom. So our team for this project, working with me, are Joe Pringle, our project manager, who you may be able to see on screen. You certainly will be able to see it on screen a little bit later. And we have advisors from our team also who will be doing some targeted work with local authorities. You may have received your invitation directly from us today to attend today, but you may have received the invitation via various governments or organisations and agencies. So do contact us directly if there's anything that you need to know about the project after today. And our email address, info@hempsalls.com, is dead easy to remember, and we'd be very happy to answer your queries and questions and comments. So what do we know about tax-free childcare? Well, I'm not going to fall into the trap of starting the delivery of the webinars that we'll be delivering next month, but I think it's important that we at least acknowledge some of the basics and the facts about tax-free childcare before we get overly excited in terms of the work that we'll be doing as part of this project. So it's important that we think about the basic facts about tax-free childcare, but also I want to be acknowledging what the research tells us. I'm sure many of you will have thoughts, feelings about tax-free childcare. You'll have direct experiences, or it might be something that's completely new to you. But there's been plenty of research done by HMRC in particular about people's reaction and response to tax-free childcare. And we want to use all of that and the collective knowledge from you as to how that should shape and inform our. But it's fair to say that when tax-free childcare was established and created, an estimated 1.3 million families could be eligible for tax-free childcare across the UK. And it's important at this stage to say that this project that we're running runs across all of the UK, so England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. With 1.3 million families eligible, potentially, last March, 282,000 families were signed up. So there's obviously a little short of 1 million there of families who possibly could be eligible, who may better benefit from this scheme by signing up and taking up their tax-free childcare. So that's our first mission really, is to think about why and what and where we can make a difference to find some of those families so that they sign up. And it's worth up to £2,000 per child per year, or £4,000 per child if they are disabled, up to the age of 17 years. And I think it's important to state that tax-free childcare can contribute to colleagues, to parents, for children who are aged 0 to 11. This sometimes tax-free childcare is only thought to run alongside funded entitlements, whatever they are in the country where families are living, whether that's for 2s, 3s or 4s. So that's important for us to acknowledge as well. All types of paid for childcare are eligible. But so of course take-up is lower than expected, and we need to think about why that is, and the research does give us clues as to why that is the case. And that untapped potential is revealed in some of the research that we're going to appraise in a little while. So let's talk a little bit more about the project aims then. Well, our aim in this short project is to increase the take-up of tax-free childcare where we can. And that's to work within the current system. You know, you may be of the view that various things of tax-free childcare need to change. And I don't think that it's unfair for me to say HMRC. Well, HMRC are certainly listening and looking at how things could change. But this project is absolutely situated in the current system of how tax-free childcare is organised and applied. And what we want to do is to provide information around an awareness and understanding of tax-free childcare, and perhaps some new and refreshed ways. We want information to be there so that we can grow awareness and understanding, including its eligibility criteria and how it works in relation to other childcare and other forms of childcare fees, of which there are a few different ones. We want to engage councils and local authorities across all those 4 nations and childcare providers and family-facing or parent-facing professionals to help better understand tax-free childcare and perhaps be more confident about it. And when I talk about family or parent-facing professionals, I really do mean anyone who comes in regular or occasional contact with children and families who can play a small part or even a medium-sized part in sharing information about tax-free childcare, opening up the doors, unblocking some barriers and encouraging their take-up. So family-facing professionals can include people like providers, health visitors, practitioners, teachers, social workers, information guidance workers, job centre staff and housing, etc., etc. So let's think about the HMRC research. There are some useful links to the research that we're going to be referencing at the end of this slide pack. So you will be able to click on those links when you receive the slides. But there's been lots of research commissioned by HMRC, and we are using that, as well as what you are telling us and our own experience of people's response and experience of tax-free childcare, whether they be early years and childcare providers, local councils or other supporting organisations. But there are some headlines here, and I think they're really important to acknowledge. Information reaching and connecting with families is really important, and making sure as many people as possible understand the eligibility for tax-free childcare and start to believe that this is something for them, and that's really essential. We want to be able to get people talking about taking action, applying it and using it, so that the processes and systems need to be possible and worth the time and effort to apply. People need and want to receive information and support from people they know and trust. Often that's called word of mouth. So building a momentum in terms of word of mouth through our roots with family-facing professionals and with other parents, using that spoken method of communication and transmitting information is really vital. People have mixed reactions to the name tax-free childcare. It sparks interest for some, and for others that might get in the way. So these are things that we need to consider. And in a COVID-19 environment, we also need to acknowledge that we've changed patterns of childcare use, and that we're seeing in some areas reduced levels of paid for childcare in terms of demand and use and availability, and that families and economic circumstances have changed, as well as the provider's ability to deliver various different childcare. So lots that the research tells us, and we'll say more about that in the course of the project. I want to invite Jo Pringle now to tell us a little bit more about the specific project activities. Jo.
Super, thanks James. So we'll be holding 2 national webinars in March. They'll give the latest clear information about tax-free childcare and hope to seek to increase the awareness of it so that we all understand about it. We'll share ideas on how we can motivate more and more people to spread information and awareness, and ultimately encourage more people to take up. One of our webinars will be especially for early years and childcare providers, including childminders. It's childcare providers across all sectors. We'll deliver it live twice, one daytime and one twilight, recognising that not everyone can actually attend during the day, and then a recording will be circulated widely. The second webinar will be for councils, early years teams and family-facing professionals. Both webinars will have broadly similar content, but they'll be tweaked to recognise the different audiences and the different messages that we want to use. They'll be held on Zoom, so you can just watch or listen in, or there'll be an opportunity for you to get involved through the comments and the questions and answers as well. We will, as James said, provide some key information, hopefully presented in a fresh and appealing way, including some of the research findings. We'll share ways to inform people about it and how awareness can be raised. And we look at some of the blocks and suggested ways of overcoming those to best effect as well. The information on how to book and how to promote the webinars will be shared with you by the end of this week. The beauty of Zoom is that we can open the webinar into up to very large numbers. So we hope that you will promote it widely and we can get as many people along as possible. We'll also be approaching 10 different local authorities across the UK to work and review to work through a review and action planning process to identify what's been done already with regards to tax-free childcare and opportunities to do more. These will focus on information sharing, awareness raising and support for families to apply for and take up tax-free childcare. And we hope to share some of the outcomes with the wider audience at the end of the project. But the webinar is the big story for today. If you've been invited to get involved, you will know already, or you will soon be asked. So what is our current thinking about the to-do list or the things that we'll be including? We are thinking about a number of possible actions: improving how tax-free childcare information is promoted and widening its reach, reviewing what information about tax-free childcare is being held and is publicised at the moment, encouraging verbal interactive information sharing. By that I mean word of mouth or getting people talking confidently about tax-free childcare. Building relationships between parents and family-facing professionals so that information exchange can happen. We'll be building ways to increase motivational behaviours and solution achieving interactions. By that I mean thinking about what can we do, how is the best way to do it, who should be talking to who, and when do families need to know about it. We'll be thinking about how we improve our understanding of tax-free childcare. And this isn't about everybody being an expert, it's more about everybody knowing the basics and being able to signpost parents and providers so they can find out more and they can establish whether tax-free childcare is actually for them. We'll also be demonstrating the financial benefits of tax-free childcare to families and providers. And we'll also be thinking about how we motivate providers and families to sign up.
Okay, thanks, Joe. So obviously we're thinking we've got some key deliverables there in terms of 2 webinars, as Joe's described, and I'm going to recap that towards the end and work with 10 targeted areas to think about local action planning. If we're thinking about how you can get involved, then that's set out on the next slide, and you've already made a good start by attending this online introduction briefing. And for those of you that have recently joined us and weren't here right at the beginning of today's online launch, you'll be pleased to know that there is a recording of today's session for you in case you missed the beginning. But we'll also be sharing the slides as well. So we'll be keeping you involved and informed in terms of what the project is doing, but attending today's online launch is a really good start. We will also be providing you with information to promote the webinars to your early years and childcare providers or the people that you know who are in family-facing roles or colleagues within local authorities and councils. Well, whilst we have some great direct communication channels to many of those, we will really appreciate your support to do what you can do to share that information with all of those people, and we'll supply that information for you so you can use it and adapt it, including some suggested social media content and translated material into the Welsh language. So attending today, tick. Circulating the webinar information, fantastic. And attending the webinar yourself, of course, so that you have benefit of the content of that also. Like today, the webinars will be recorded and there'll be a suite of resources shared as a result afterwards. So we will also invite you to host those on your website, share them through your networks and social media, promote them as well to spread the word. So there's plenty to do. As Joe said, we have been that those 10 targeted areas are in the process of being contacted directly. So if you've already been contacted, then you are one of those 10 areas. If not, then you may not be contacted unless until we work down the list and we reach you. So we're not inviting anybody to express an interest, because what we're looking at is areas where take-up is lower, but also where populations are higher for this stage of the programme. So if you are one of the 10 that are asked, then we ask you to hopefully get involved, and many of you have already agreed to get involved in this project. Next slide. So let's have a little think about tax-free childcare. We're especially keen to hear from you if you've done something to promote tax-free childcare in the past or not, and how you've done actions to raise take-up. That would be really useful for others to hear about, because if there are some good examples out there, we would like to feature them in the webinars, even if the lessons learned meant that they weren't particularly effective for you, because this is all about lessons learned and testing out various approaches. So do please pop information in the chat bar or send us an email to info@Hempsall if you have something to share. But we thought it would be useful today to understand your views and ideas a little further. So we're going to launch 5 poll questions. You should be able to answer those on screen. So I'm going to launch the poll questions right now, and it's important for me to say that the answers to these poll questions aren't identifiable. You're answering these completely anonymously, and we'll use the information as a temperature taking for the work that we are about to embark on. So question 1 should come up on screen shortly. There we go. So we've got here a question with 5 multiple choice answers. Do you agree we could all do more to share information about tax-free childcare? Do you answer no? We think we've done everything that we could or should do. We could improve it a little, but we're unsure how to do that. You don't know. Or yes, you really want to do more, but would like some support or direction. Or yes, lots needs to be done. Let's get on and do it. So hopefully you're all able now to submit your answer to that question.
Sorry, James, I can't see the screen that you're referring to.
The polls come up in the chat.
Polls come up in the chat, and it's on some people's screens. It depends sometimes, depending on your device or your program software actually on Teams. So if it's not in the middle of the screen, you should be able to see it in the chat function. If not, I apologise, but the answers will be useful for you to hear from other people. I can see 139 people have responded so far. And the results are, we have 64% of people saying they would like to do more, but would like some support and direction. Well, that's fantastic, because that's why we're here. And a quarter of people say, yes, lots needs to be done, let's do it. So a very, very obvious result there, which is fantastic. So next question. Either be on screen for you or in the chat. And it's families do not understand tax-free childcare enough. Do you strongly agree or strongly disagree on that range? And let's have a look at the results from that.
It's great to see that the majority strongly agree or agree in some way, because there's work to be done. But it it's also interesting that some people do not, you know, aren't aware. So that's some great work for us to think about how we can build those in, because there is obviously a perception that families don't understand, and we need to do something around how we can improve on that.
Yeah, fantastic. It seems like we're all on the same page. So let's have a look at question 3. There are 5 questions in total. So this one, parent or family facing professionals don't understand tax-free childcare enough. And remember, when I was talking about family and parent facing professionals, I was talking about housing, health visitors, social care, early years and childcare providers, perhaps everybody in this meeting as well. So what do we think about that one? Almost there with 141 responses. There's a clear picture emerging again, Joe.
There is. And again, I'm interested in picking up the discussion with the don't know as well, because I think that that's something that we can definitely think about, how we're clear about who we talk to, who we're engaging with. I've just realised I'm frozen. I do apologise. That's
all right. I know she got a frozen mug to match, so the theme going on there. Interesting result there. So question 4. This one is a little bit more complicated. So this has got all sorts of various options. So what do you think are the biggest barriers or challenges to overcome in raising take-up of tax-free childcare? So there's a lot of different options there for you to consider, including another. And if you answer other, do pop that in the chat bar. So I know it's going to take a little bit longer to answer the question. So let's have a look at these results then. Based on 148 responses, we've got a whole range of different things here. Only 2% others, but I can see lots of comments emerging in the chat bar. Actually, when Joe's back, we'll return to the chat bar to see what people's observations are. But lack of information, 14%, information being unclear, 13%, low awareness of parents, nearly a quarter. So that one's the front runner, I think, into the issue. Low awareness of family facing professionals again. So all the things that we're expecting and all the things that are backed up by the formal research, and it's good to see that we are agreeing and on the same page there. Fantastic. Okay, we'll come back to the comments on that in a little while, but the final poll question is coming up now. There we go. So it's the final question. Again, quite a long one. Welcome back, Joe. When we've finished answering this question, we'll praise this one, and then we'll go. Then after the next slide, we'll go into the comments in the chat bar. So let's have a think about this question. So this question is, what would help you the most in increasing take-up of tax-free childcare? So this is what would help you the most in increasing take-up of tax-free childcare. So is it new information materials? Is it family awareness, raising support? Is it ideas for motivating parents to take up? Is it motivating childcare providers to register and promote it? Family facing professionals or other? About 133 responses there. Joe, have we got a pattern emerging?
What would help? New information. So just under or a fifth, 75 said new information materials. So it'll be interesting to explore whether that's actually new information materials or whether that's actually how we use and the messages that are within that. Family awareness support, ideas for motivating, absolutely, and we will look at how we think about the benefits and potentially think about how we can sell some of those things. What is in it for providers? What are the benefits for providers and families? Because everyone can win if we can manage to increase. Ideas for motivating childcare providers, absolutely. You know, it's been a very, very tough 18 months, 2 years, and things are changing. So it's how we build tax-free childcare into that business planning process as part of their thinking about moving forward and recovery. And then ideas for motivating family facing, again, 66 with regards to how family facing professionals can help. And we've got a number of others as well.
Yeah, I think that was a good overall, quite an equal split over those actions, which is encouraging, because those are all things that we want to achieve in this project. So that's good. And I'll give you a moment or two, Joe, to appraise what's coming up in the chat bar, because we'll have some moments to respond to some questions specifically, so to reflect what the themes are in terms of the questions. But before we do that, I will just pop up the references slide, because whilst I've made reference to some particular research, if you could have the next slide, please. We have compiled a reading and resources list for you, because, and I can see some of you have asked for that already in the chat bar. Various HMRC research, some of it is relatively new actually. The 2, 7 and 8 were only published this month. So research on barriers and research on the name Tax-Free Childcare. And as I reflected earlier, there are some pluses and minuses there. There are some people for whom that works, and there are some that perhaps that term might get in the way. There are also resources that HMRC publish for you, for providers and for local authorities and councils, and we've given the link there as well. Not expecting you to be able to read this slide, but certainly when you receive the slides later, you'll be able to click on those links should you wish to have a look at that information. Okay, so Joe, what is coming up in the chat bar?
So we've got some discussion around data to support local authorities to increase the take up of tax-free childcare, and reference to data that used to be and how this might be useful. There's some great input already into the chat around what some people are doing, and I very well might follow up with some of you who are already actively supporting providers, parents, with messaging, with workshops, etc. There's a bit of a theme around the system being complicated for parents and also for providers at a time when providers have got an awful lot of priorities. And there's also definitely a theme in the chat around confusion between 30 hours tax-free childcare and the all the things that can support families to reduce the cost of childcare or early years offers in general. It's an interesting comment around not sure providers see the benefit, and I work quite a lot face to face with providers, and really do believe that tax-free childcare and all the things that are available to reduce the cost of childcare are built into the business planning and the day-to-day discussions that we have with families from the moment they walk through our door. I'm just scanning down now to see what else that we've got here. There's some thoughts around national and comms campaign. It's interesting in one of the sets of research that asked around where families found out about it. It was actually word of mouth and local authority childcare providers, etc., where they found out more rather than visiting. Now, I know in some local authorities that will visiting government.gov.uk and childcare choices will absolutely be the priority, because I know many bits of information, your family information services direct families directly to childcare choices to find out more. Comments around improving the customer journey to make it easier for parents to access it without worrying about how it affects other benefits. And I think that's something that we want to do. We want to think about the messaging for front-facing professionals and parents to be able to, take away some of that anxiety that parents think about what might happen, what strings are attached. It must be, there must be a catch somewhere. which comes out in some of the recent research as well. And then scanning down now, need to work on how the different elements of free and funded childcare interact with each other. The jigsaw is complicated and the various bits, but I think it's important that for this project, it isn't just about how it interacts with the any of the early years entitlements or funded places. It's about how all families from 0 to 11-year-olds actually can benefit. So it's from first using childcare, whether that paid for or with help, or right the way up to primary school as well, and then out of school. So we will be focusing on it all, thinking about how it interacts, but actually going wider and broader, because actually if we can engage families right from the start where they can benefit for their baby, then they're experts by the time they get to the whatever the funded entitlement looks like in whatever part of the UK that you're in using their tax-free childcare.
Yeah, I mean, there are various family-facing roles. It's very easy for us to say, well, we want all of those roles to do more in terms of tax-free childcare and other things, it has to be said. And we're not actually asking to overload those roles or asking them to do something that's complex or difficult or expert, actually. But it's at least to have tax-free childcare in their toolkit, as something that it could be a positive solution for families affording their childcare. So knowing enough to be able to open that opportunity, that idea, that spark of interest, and knowing where parents could or should go to find out more. So lots of join-ups there with what the research has been saying and the evaluations have been saying, I have to say, and how we share data on take-up and which providers are signed up for tax-free childcare is an important consideration. But so is having, one size does not fit all when it comes to communicating something like this. Yes, the research has said that families overwhelmingly like to receive this sort of information word of mouth. Now, they're not going to be sitting listening to briefings and webinars around the complexities and the difficulties and the processes of tax-free childcare. What they're saying is that they are enjoying the difference that was made with somebody briefly, enthusiastically and confidently talking to them about tax-free childcare and opening that potential up to them. So yes, we need to get people talking about tax-free childcare a whole lot more, complemented with a whole range of other resources as well, like the Childcare Choices website, other tools, other resources. And I know that colleagues at HMRC are also working on new pieces of national communication materials as well, which will be released shortly. But it's like any benefit or entitlement, families often will put the barriers in front of them themselves. So like the most common reason why benefits, when in my experience, low benefit take-up was families would instantly or instinctively think it wasn't for them. And actually the research time and time again hears from parents who believe tax-free childcare isn't for them. So they think that they earn too much or they don't earn enough, or it's for a particular type of childcare, a particular age of children, or it has to be something that's taken alongside another government funded offer, and they vary across the whole of the UK. So there are complexities of systems there, but there are people in every area who know enough and can make a big difference to support a smoother customer journey than without. So I think there's a tremendous amount there of overlap and connection between the research and the references and the assumptions that we've been working on in terms of shaping this project, and the responses to those poll questions absolutely demonstrate that many of us are on the same page, and that the focus of the activities coming up and the structure of those webinars that are in development will hit the mark. So that's really encouraging. And absolutely, we will go through your comments in the chat bar after today's session with a fine-tooth comb. We'll be looking at what you're saying, where the examples of good practice are, the questions, the commonly asked questions that you need answers for in terms of the next stage of this project. And whilst the polls are anonymous, the chat function isn't. So expect a call or an email from Jo if she feels that she wants to know more from you. Fantastic, that's really useful. Okay, next slide then. Just wanted to return to the structure. You know, today's online briefing is just that. It is to tell you about this project and how you may get involved. I hope you feel that so far we've managed to support that in terms of telling you the aim and purpose of what we will be doing and what we're aiming to achieve about tax-free childcare. Some possible approaches that we've tested through as well. I think we've got a tremendous amount of intelligence very quickly and very efficiently from you in terms of your views, ideas, comments and questions. And you know, there's the opportunity for you to make those requests and asks in that chat function as well as dropping us an email at info@hempsalls.com. But we really wanted to make sure that also that you were very clear about how you can support this project to be successful. And that's what I just wanted to recap on now and to confirm what happens next before we draw today's online briefing to a close. So the next slide is a reminder of those free national webinars. They will aim to give the information that will address all if not most of those issues that we've discussed today, raise awareness of tax-free childcare and hope to increase everybody's understanding of it. Ultimately, to motivate small, medium and large actions that will support parents and providers to take it up. We want to provide ideas and tools to help parents and or providers. And as Jo said, all types of early years and childcare providers, including holiday activity and food providers and other providers are welcome. The dates are there, 15th and 16th of March, and those are the times that those webinars will be running. And then one for local authorities, councils and family-facing professionals together on the 15th of March, 10 till 11:30. By the end of the week, you will receive further communication from us containing information about the webinars and how to book on. They are free. They will be on Zoom. We know it's not perfect for everybody, but it's the best choice that pleases most people most of the time for a webinar that could have 2,000 plus people on it.
And just to confirm, James, they will be recorded because that question's just been asked.
Yeah. They will be recorded for the same reason today's event is recorded. We know people can't always make the time available. So they'll be recorded and shared. And one of the asks that we're asking of everybody is to share those recordings with your particular communities and colleagues. So a final reminder then on the last slide is do contact us about this project via info@hempsalls.com. The booking and webinar materials will follow by the end of the week. The good news is there's no evaluation form for you to fill in about today's online briefing. But do email us if you need anything. And again, that confirmation that the recording will be shared very soon for you. If you missed the beginning of today's session, or you want to revisit it, or you want to share it with other colleagues. So that's it for today's online briefing. Thank you very much and have a good rest of the day.